So it's a tale of murder, kidnapping and betrayal set in the weeks running up to the start of World War II. Glorious-39 boasts a stellar British cast, and it's the writer and director Stephen Poliakoff's first foray into cinema for more than a decade.
There are dodgy spies, showbiz starlets and secret documents in the outhouse. That's more in the greenhouse sort of thing, shed area, pointing the way to a dark and terrible truth. We'll talk to Stephen and one of the stars, Jenny Agutter, in a moment. Good morning to you both. First, here's a look at the film.
Why are you here in these parts, Mr. Balcom?
A little fishing. I was determined to get in some fishing, somehow.
How very sensible.
And coming here to such an ancient place, well, it's quite possible to think that all is right with the world. But it isn't, is it? We're not even sleepwalking towards disaster anymore, are we? We're actually going up to it and welcoming it with open arms.
Well, I've certainly been known to do that in my time.
Precisely in what way are we doing that? I will tell you absolutely precisely. We're not content with letting Hitler march into Czechoslovakia and Austria. Now we're saying that's absolutely all right, old chap. Take some more countries if you really want. Are we saying that? Yes, we are. Hitler is intent on taking over the whole of Europe, and we are letting him do it so long as he doesn't bother us.
David Tennant, part of the stellar cast, along with Jenny Agutter. Good morning, Jenny, and Stephen. Good morning to you both. First time back in cinema for 10 years, but of course you've been doing things for TV. What is the difference, I was wondering when I was watching, between creating a film for television and for cinema? Because they're always pretty sumptuous.
Yes, there's not a huge difference, but the big difference for me is that this is the first time I've made a thriller, and I mean, if people go out to the cinema, hopefully they'll have an exciting time. It's trying to tell a walloping good story, as well as saying things about that extraordinary moment in history. So that very much belongs in the cinema, and I think it's a collective experience where people are going, ooh, what's going to happen next? Hopefully that's how the movie works. If people go this weekend, that, they will, be frightened and moved, I hope. And that is very much a cinematic experience, and doing it on a big scale on the wide screen, that was very exciting.
And it's a period in history that relatively sort of less, I suppose, less well known. It's a period that you said fascinated you, and indeed you, Jenny.
Yes, because I mean, obviously we tend to think, well, we went into war and it was glorious and did all the right things, but there was a time right before with the people involved in appeasement where one could easily have swung the other way, which is very much what the thriller is dealing with.
Particularly the aristocracy.
Very black. Yes, absolutely. People. I mean, there had been the First World War. Churchill seemed to be a warmonger as far as they were concerned. They did not want to go in that direction again. People had seen sort of appalling conditions and terrible things happened. And people had a lot to protect. And this is particularly about a family that has a great deal to protect and wants to keep everything as is.
Why were you drawn to this particular period, Stephen?
Well, because if we had gone the other way and we were within an inch of going the other way, I wouldn't be here, my family wouldn't be here, I'm Jewish, all sorts of other people wouldn't be here. I mean, it was such a close-run thing that Churchill became Prime Minister. I mean, so many strong forces were against people like David Tennant. David Tennant, the scene we've just seen, there's a very small group of people who wanted us to stand up to Hitler, really, and the forces of the aristocracy, the royal family, who was a great support of appeasement, and a mass of the political class, they all wanted us to stay out of Europe, something that also so it's just by a whisker that our history isn't different, and so I found that very exciting, and to do it through a story, because of course we know we won the war, so using a thriller, hopefully we don't know what's going to happen, and we become like Romola Gary's character. It's happening to us, the adopted daughter, Bill Nye, and so we just don't know what's going to happen in the story, and I think that helps show what a close-run thing it was.
Well, actually, Jenny, give us a sense then of the characters, the main characters. You play Maud, who I think is fair to say she's an integral...
Married to Bill Nye. Romola Gary is a adopted daughter, and Eddie Redmayne and Juno Temple, a lovely family, so I can,
Yeah. And your part, I mean, you garden a lot in the film.
Yes, I garden for England, exactly. And, I mean, it is very much someone who's very solid, who is quite quiet throughout the entire piece. Has not a great deal to say, but presumably is watching and is there, and is very English and represents that part of it.
Should we take a look at another clip? This is where Romola Gary's character, who's the central character, finds some secret recordings and begins to fear for her life and seeks help from her lover, Lawrence.
Something terrible is going on.
I know.
Ralph is involved.
Yes, I know that too.
You know? Do you think he really realises the full extent of what they're doing? I mean, maybe he doesn't.
I don't know the answer to that.
He's my brother. I can't believe that he... I want to believe that he could.
What I found out is that there's a group of them in the Secret Service and a motley collection of other people, including some very determined aristocrats who are trying to bring this war to an end before it's even started. They think we haven't got a chance, and they're determined to do a deal with Hitler.
I think they killed my friend Gilbert.
Romola Gary there. What a cast, though, because it's your good self, of course, Jenny, Bill Nye, that you mentioned, Julie Christie, Jeremy Northam, Christopher Lee, people falling over themselves to work with Stephen Poliakoff. Is that right?
That's the reason, I think.
What is the great attraction?
Well, I'm not sure falling over is quite right, yeah.
It's wonderful writing and good directing. It's a lovely opportunity.
It was great to have such an amazing cast. I mean, it's all British cast. We made it half in Norfolk, half in London. You know, some great landscapes to have this cast. It was very cold for them. It's meant to be late, fortunately, with the sun shone, so you don't realise that it isn't late summer. It's actually freezing. So, I had to make them sit in their flimsy costumes in this gorgeous scenery, but with sub-zero temperatures. So that was quite funny, with Julie Christie and Jenny and Romola Gary and Bill. Yeah, no, it's always great to have top actors and have them at the top of, hopefully at the top of their talent, you know, really. I mean, I think Bill's amazing. Julie, nobody's seen Julie Christie act like that. She's playing a totally different sort of
recognise it.
grand dame role. You know, it shows what incredible range she has. You know, and David Tennant playing a very, you know, intense, you know, completely different Doctor Who, and you know, Jenny, a great figure of British cinema here. I mean, it's really, really exciting.
Wonderful, sumptuous surroundings. You mentioned Norfolk, and I was reading the location manager said that you go along, actually, because you take such an interest in where things are filmed, and it's actually a house that's in sort of current ownership. Beautiful. I mean, the
yes,
place
there's this extraordinary sort of secret in terms of it's not been filmed in Little Walsingham, which is in North Norfolk, and there's this wonderful private house with incredible medieval arch right next to the house, like it's sort of like where people put the conservatory. They've got this incredible. It's all that's left of the abbey that used to sit there. It is one of the most stunning locations I've ever found.
So the abbey was connected with, that you see in the film.
That dinner party is right by that extraordinary tower. I mean, it is a beautiful location. I mean, the whole thing is very romantic, which is why it also has this nightmarish feeling about it. You've got this glorious summer.
And
it was this fantastic summer.
In any Stephen Poliakoff production, you can be sure that there'll be at least one sumptuous dinner scene somewhere. There always is, and you got one.
We did. In the freezing cold night.
Well, they did have a wonderful life, and if you were rich in 1939, it was a sublime time because you had all the servants, the 19th century style of servants, plus all the mod cons of the 20th century, and that's, of course, why a lot of people really were much more worried about communism than fascism, and thought they weren't necessarily fascists, but they thought that Hitler, you know, he's not too bad, and just leave us. You can have Europe. Just let us keep our empire. You know, that's what.
And the glimpse of that extraordinary party that you showed, the sort of weekend party in the morning, and all the young women.
It was a very glamorous time, that last season, for the rich. Within weeks of the war happening, they had these incredible parties, and then it all changed within days to this extraordinary, surreal landscape of London during the phony war, which we also show.
Yes, and the sinister twist with those who wanted to suppress the anti-appeasers. So anyway, that's...
Yes, which is all... I mean, I've heightened it for thriller purposes, but a lot of it is true. I mean, there was incredible, powerful Secret Service playing very powerful dirty tricks.
OK. Very interesting. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lovely to see you. Thank you.
Glorious 39 opens nationwide on Friday.